Welcome. In this video, we will discuss about the Corruption Perception Index. Another important point for you to remember over here that we are talking about how the corruption is perceived. It is not about some data which is compiled to come up with this index. It is more along the line how the corruption is perceived across various factors. So this is the major thing you should remember about Corruption Perception Index. From the UPSC point of view, these kind of index UPSC has been asking in the prelims paper. So keep a list, make a list of all the major indexes and the organization associated with it, along with the India ranking and few major points. So such kind of Excel sheet or table you can make in which you keep the record of everything. So in this particular video, we will focus on the Corruption Perception Index. So let's start. First of all, which organization is associated with the composition or the launch of the Corruption Perception Index? It is the Transparency International. So just remember, Transparency International makes sense, right? We are talking about corruption, so it has to be the institution with the name transparent because corruption comes up because of lack of transparency. So you can try to correlate along those lines. It will help you remember these things. It is a composite index that draws from 12 surveys to rank the nation around the globe. So basically it is based on surveys. So I told you, right? It is more along the line how the corruption is perceived rather than what the corruption is all about. It's more along the line how the corruption is perceived. So it become a benchmark gauge of perceptions of corruption and it is used by analysts and investors. So again, the investors also take care of or also pay heed to the CPI before they go ahead and even go for the foreign direct investment for a case. So if India is not performing good on the corruption perception index, it could mean some of the investors could get spooked off that okay, there are rampant corruption, we cannot set up our manufacturing unit over there and so on. So that is why investors also keep an eye. So that is the significance of this corruption perception index. The index is based on the expert opinions of public sector corruption and take notes of the range of factors like whether the government leaders are held to accountable or go unpunished for the corruption. So this is one of the parameter that whether the government leaders, so the leaders who are leading the government, whether they are held accountable, whether there is any accountability if they do any corruption, or is it like they can do corruption with impunity. So such kind of factor is one of the thing which is checked in the survey. Then the perceived prevalence of bribery, like how the bribery is rampant or how the people perceive that the case with the bribery, like for what all purposes they have to give bribes. Then whether public institutional response to citizen needs. So basically along the line whether the common citizen can reach out to the public institution and whether they are wary of their needs or not. So these are certain indicators or certain factors which are measured in the survey and it takes care of the expert opinion. So these are certain very basic information you should know about the corruption perception index. So it ranks 180 countries and territories by their perceived level of public sector corruption according to experts and business people. Now just remember it focus only on the public sector corruption. So we are not talking about the corruption at the individual private level. It is mostly for the public sector corruption. Also how the scale is formed. So it is the scale from 0 to 100. Now 0 is considered corrupt. So if you are getting 0, it means the nation is considered corrupt, and if you are like 100, it means you are like very clean the country. So that's how it is. It is not the other way around. Just remember 0 is corrupt and 100 is very clean. So generally what happens, we see that as the number go up, it is actually on the other side. But no, over here the 0 is the corrupt and the 100 is the unclean. So remember that part. Now let's just quickly also see what is the India's performance. So India slipped 6 places to 86th position this year. What does this mean? Now this is something you should remember that for an example, this is your CPI, this is your year, this is how you make graph in your examination also. So if you make 2019 and then 2020, you can just simply say there is a dip. Basically that's how you should represent. You don't have to remember the exact position. At times in prelims they could ask, but again the return on investment is not so much. But this kind of graphs, this kind of trend is something you should keep a eye on. India's score is below the average score of the Asia Pacific region, which is like 31 countries, and global average. So what India has scored would be more around the line of less score. So we just told that 0 is highly corrupt and 100 is clean. So India's score is more towards the 0. That is why it is low. India's overall score is also 2 point less than of China, which docked at 78 position. So India is at 86, China is at 78, which means that China did perform well. But again, you can from this factor also you can understand that corruption is not. It's not like that there is no corruption in China. On the other hand, which are the countries who top the chart? So those include your New Zealand. So New Zealand is the one who has been, along with the Denmark, has been declared as one of the countries which has been considered clean. So just remember these are the top performers. India's lies at the bottom of the barrel over here, and it has also slipped. So which means that during the COVID-19 times also it has been perceived that the India's performance in corruption sector was more prominent, which means that the uh, people or the expert, the business people perceived government to be more corrupt even during the time of COVID-19. So this is the idea, this is how you should remember. Things for you to remember: India slipped its in its rank. Other thing for you to remember is it is published by the Transparency International, and also it is about like how the 0 is the highly corrupt and 100 is the very clean, and it takes into consideration of 180 countries. So these are the things that you should remember. So I hope you have liked this video. If you have any doubt, feel free to drop a comment. Thank you.